Darkness is the first thing you feel at a distance of 4,500,000,000 kilometers from the sun. Imagine that you are hovering above the upper boundary of the atmosphere of Neptune.
Neptune storms
where
dwarf
sunlight
anything
is
on Earth.
900
If
times
caught in one,
weaker
you'd face
than on
winds of
Earth.
1,500 miles per hour in a
Before you,
vortex wider
a
than our
majestic
planet.
picture
This is the
unfolds.
relentless scale of
A
Neptune's weather.
perfectly blue sphere that seems like a calm harbor in the void. Methane in the upper layers absorbs the red spectrum of light, creating the illusion of a safe, azure
Neptune
ocean.
storms are among the most violent
But
in
as
the
soon
solar
as you
system.
begin your
A
fall,
spacecraft caught in
this
this maelstrom
illusion
would
is
be
shattered
tossed
against the first
uncontrollably.
law of
The probe systems would be
thermodynamics.
overwhelmed by the relentless
You enter a
force.
zone where the fastest winds in the solar system prevail, moving at speeds of over 2,100 kilometers per hour. This is not just wind. It is a supersonic flow of gas that turns any matter into dust. Your immersion begins not with a soft descent, but with instantaneous destruction under the action of the kinetic energy of an
Neptune's
atmosphere
winds
that
can
knows no
exceed
statics.
2,100 kilometers
Welcome
per
to
hour.
a place where physics
graphic
itself
Earth's
becomes your
fastest storms.
executioner. Your
The
journey
forces at play
begins in
are
the
truly
troposphere,
otherworldly.
where the temperature remains
Supersonic
at
winds,
minus
over
220
1,200
degrees
miles
Celsius.
per hour, tear through
At this
Neptune's dense
altitude,
clouds,
the atmosphere
creating these
consists
massive,
mainly of hydrogen
swirling
and
storms.
helium with impurities of methane, which forms white cirrus clouds. They look innocent, but data from the Voyager 2 spacecraft indicate that these structures move around the planet in the opposite
Caught in a
direction
Neptune
to its
storm,
rotation.
violent winds whip clouds into a frenzy.
You fall through
This
these
vortex
methane
churns at over
crystals,
1,500 miles
feeling
per
how the
hour,
cold
tearing through
tries
the
to draw the
atmosphere.
last
Any
energy from your
spacecraft would be
protective
instantly
suit.
shredded. Neptune
But here,
storms are the most
the
violent
first
in the
serious
solar
anomaly
system.
arises.
Winds can reach
The
1,500
pressure
miles per
begins
hour.
to increase
Our probe is
exponentially,
battered by these
and
forces,
instead of
pushed
freezing,
and tumbled.
you begin to feel a strange
Neptune
release
storms
of
are a
heat.
violent maelstrom of
But
gases.
here's the problem.
At the center, the
Neptune
great dark
is not
spot,
just a
where
cold
pressure
ball
mounts
of gas.
relentlessly.
It is
Gases
a giant
compress, temperatures
gravitational
soar, creating a
accumulator.
crushing trap.
The deeper you
Neptune's
descend,
atmosphere
the more the
churns with
gas
storms
around
of
you is
crushing
compressed,
pressure.
releasing
A
energy due
spacecraft
to
caught
the
in the storm
Kelvin-Helmholtz
faces
mechanism.
immediate peril.
The planet radiates
Within
2.6
seconds, it is
times more
crushed.
heat than it receives
Neptune,
from the distant
the
star.
majestic ice giant.
This creates incredible convection. You fall
What
into a
happens if you're
flow
caught
that
in one?
rises from the
The forces
depths,
could shred any spacecraft
colliding
to
with the
pieces.
cold masses from above. This gives birth to giant vortices, such as the Great Dark Spot. This anticyclone, the size of the Earth, has no solid support. It drifts through the atmosphere, tearing everything in its path with gravitational shifts. But it gets even worse when you
Neptune
cross the
storms
mark
are
of
colossal
100
vortices,
kilometers
thousands
deep.
of kilometers wide,
The
with
light of
winds
the
tearing
sun
at over
finally
2,000 kilometers per
disappears,
hour.
leaving
Against
you in
this,
true
a human is a fragile
cosmic darkness.
speck, caught in forces from such unrelenting
Here, the
power.
pressure reaches 5 atmospheres, and the composition of the clouds changes from methane to hydrogen sulfide. Now you are in clouds that smell like rotten eggs. But this is the least of your concerns. The chemical aggressiveness of the environment begins to corrode the outer layers of your craft. Hydrogen sulfide combined with high pressure.
What happens
becomes a
if you get
toxic
caught in a
solvent.
Neptune storm?
Every breath you take, if it were possible,
Colossal
would
vortex
burn your
rages
lungs
with winds of
instantly.
1,500
The
miles
physics
per
of the
hour.
environment presses on your hull with a
The
force
probe enters
equivalent to
Neptune's
immersion
violent
to a
storm,
great depth
where it
in the
loses
Earth
stability,
ocean,
tumbling
but without
uncontrollably
any
through the
hope of
churning
buoyancy.
clouds. Buffeted by
And
the
this is
storm,
where
the
everything
probe's structure
changes,
is strained to its
because the
base.
wind speed begins to
Neptune's
drop,
winds can
but the
reach
density of the
1,500
gas
miles per hour,
increases so much
dwarfing
that it
on
becomes
Earth's strongest
viscous.
hurricanes, but
You
pales
are
against
no longer
Neptune
falling.
storms.
You are
The
pushing
scale is
through a
truly
thick
immense.
haze. Around you, discharges of static electricity begin to flash. Lightnings on Neptune are thousands of times more powerful than those on Earth, as they are fed
Neptune
by the colossal
storms are
energy
among
of
the most
friction
violent
in
in the solar
ultra-dense
system,
layers of the
with
atmosphere.
winds reaching 2,000
Each flash for a fraction of
If
a
you
second
recall a call of
illuminates a
the
terrifying picture.
Neptune's winds are the
Endless walls
fastest in
of
the solar
clouds
system.
rotating in a chaotic
Turbulence
dance
create
under the
masses at
action of
speeds over
Coriolis
1,200 miles
forces.
per hour.
You are in the
Caught in
center
such a
of a
storm,
planetary
survival
meat
would be
grinder,
impossible.
where gravity pulls you deeper and pressure prepares you for a phase transition. But that is not even the worst part, as scientific models indicate the existence of a so-called transition layer.
Neptune
depth of
storms
about
are a pressure
7,000
cooker, with
kilometers,
forces that can crush
pressure
even the
becomes
toughest
so high
materials.
that methane
This spacecraft
molecules
begins
begin
to
to break
buckle as
down.
the pressure mounts.
The binding
Its hull
energy
fractures
between
and
carbon
collapses
and
under the
hydrogen no
immense
longer
strain.
withstands the external compression. This is the moment when chemistry turns into the physics of extreme states. Carbon is released, and under the influence of a temperature of several thousand
Neptune
degrees,
storms are the
it
most
begins to
violent in the solar
crystallize.
system, with winds
You fall
exceeding
into a zone of
1,500 miles
diamond
per
rain.
hour.
This
If
is
caught
not
in
a
one,
metaphor.
you would be torn apart
It
by
is a
forces
scientifically
beyond
grounded
comprehension.
process of hydrocarbon
Neptune's
pyrolysis.
atmosphere is a maelstrom of
Crystals
violent
of solid
winds
carbon,
and colossal
tens
storms.
of centimeters long, fall around you
Caught in
like
this,
red-hot
the torn
shrapnel.
apart's larger than Earth's
At this
fury.
depth, the pressure reaches
As the probe
hundreds of
descends
thousands
deeper
of
into
bars.
Neptune Storm,
Your
it
craft,
encounters winds
built
of
by
over
Earth
2,000
standards,
kilometers
begins
per
to
hour,
deform according to the
revealing the
principle of
immense
hydrostatic
scale of the
compression.
vortex.
Metal
This is
behaves
Neptune's
like
great dark
plasticine.
spot, a storm
You
so
become part of
massive
the
it could
process
swallow
of
our entire
differentiation
planet.
of the interior.
Its winds exceed
where heavier
1,500
elements
kilometers
inevitably
per
sink to
hour,
the center.
dwarfing anything on Earth.
The temperature around you already exceeds 2,000 degrees Celsius. You are in an environment that planetary scientists call the icy mantle, but the name is misleading.
A spacecraft
This
caught in
is
Neptune
not
Storm
ice.
faces winds of
It
1,500
is a
miles
hot,
per hour, tearing at its
ultra-dense
structure.
liquid of water,
As the probe is
ammonia,
pulled into
and
the
methane.
vortex, darkness envelops it
This
and all
is a
signals are
mixture
lost.
that has the properties
Neptune
of a
storms
supercritical
are among the
fluid,
most violent in the
a
solar
state of
system,
matter where the boundary
with winds
between
over
gas
1,500
and liquid
miles per hour.
disappears. Your fall through the depths of Neptune moves into a
Caught in
stage where
Neptune Storm,
ordinary
the
matter
probe is battered
ceases
by
to
winds
obey
over
the laws you
2,000
studied
kilometers
on
per
Earth.
hour.
At a
Lightning
depth
flashes
of
as
over
it tumbles,
10,000
barely holding
kilometers,
together against the crushing
the pressure
pressure.
exceeds 2 million
Neptune
atmospheres.
storms are massive,
At
with
this
winds
level,
reaching
you
1,500
enter the
miles
zone
per
of
hour. If you were
superionic
caught in
water
one,
ice.
the immense pressure and violent
This
winds
is a
would be
state of
instantly
matter
lead
that
scale of a
science
gas
has been able
giant's
to
power.
reproduce only in extreme laboratory conditions using laser compression and diamond anvils. This is not ice in your understanding. It is a hot, black, ultra-dense substance where oxygen atoms
Neptune
are fixed
storms
in a rigid
are among the
crystal
most
lattice,
violent in the
and
solar
hydrogen
system.
protons move freely through it. You are literally drowning in a solid body that behaves like an electrolyte.
Neptune
The
storms
temperature here
rage with
reaches
supersonic
5,000 degrees
winds.
Celsius, which corresponds to the
Dark
temperature of
forests
the
is
surface
colliding
of
in
the sun.
chaos.
But the colossal
To be
pressure
caught
does not
within
allow
would
this
mean
water
certain
to turn into
annihilation.
steam or dissolve. But here is the real physical trap. This superionic layer is a source of incredible electrical conductivity. You become part
Neptune
of a global
storms dwarf
planetary
anything on
generator.
Earth, with winds over 1,200
Flows
miles
of
per hour.
charged
The scale is
protons create
immense.
a
A
magnetic
single storm could
field that
swallow
is
our
much
entire
more
planet.
complex
Getting
on
caught in one
Neptune
would
than
mean
on
instant
any other
obliteration
planet.
from the pressure and wind.
The magnetic axis is offset from the center by 13,500 kilometers and inclined at an angle of 47 degrees to the axis of rotation. This creates chaotic
Neptune's
zones of
atmosphere is a
magnetic
dynamic
induction.
world of massive
Your
storms,
craft, or
where
what is
winds
left
whip
of
at
it after
speeds far
compression,
beyond anything on
is
all,
subjected to
revealing the
currents
extreme
of
conditions
millions
that
of
make Neptune a
amperes.
perilous destination.
This is not just radiation.
Caught in a Neptune
It is a
storm, you
direct
face
burning
winds
of
over
any
1,500
molecular
miles per
structure
hour.
by an
These cloud
ionizing
streaks would tear
vortex.
past at blinding speed.
But it gets even worse
This
when you
relentless
reach the
chaos
layer
is a
of
glimpse
liquid
into
carbon.
Neptune's violent nature.
Remember the diamond rain that began above? Under the influence of a temperature of over 6,000 degrees and a pressure of 11 million atmospheres, diamonds begin to melt.
On
You
Neptune,
find yourself
winds can
in an
exceed
ocean of liquid
1,500
carbon,
miles per hour.
where huge blocks of
This
solid
concept
diamond
visual
can
captures
float
the
like
immense scale and
icebergs.
fury of a storm where
This is
such
a zone
winds
of
rage
thermodynamic
relentlessly.
equilibrium where carbon exists simultaneously in several phases. Gravity here is so strong that it begins to bend the trajectory of even the smallest particles, forcing them to move toward the
Neptune
center of mass.
storms are among the most
You
violent in
feel
the
how
solar
your own
system.
mass becomes your enemy,
Winds
accelerating your
2,000
destruction.
kilometers per hour,
And this
and
is where
lightning is
everything
constant.
changes, because you enter the heart of magnetic chaos, where the interaction between superionic ice and liquid carbon creates incredible acoustic waves. Sound in such a dense environment propagates at a speed of
The
over
probe
10
has entered
kilometers per
Neptune's
second.
violent storm.
This is not the silence of space.
Disoriented,
It is an
the
infinite,
spacecraft
low-frequency
is
hum
so
of a
battered.
planet that is constantly
spent
converting
fury.
gravitational potential energy into thermal energy. This vibration is so powerful that it is capable of destroying atomic bonds due to resonance. You are not just
Trapped in a
compressed.
Neptune storm, you
are
face winds
subjected
of
to ultrasonic
1,500 miles
destruction
per
at the
hour.
level of elementary
Extreme
particles.
pressure gradients create
But
violent
this is not
turbulent
even
crushing
the worst
forces.
part of your
No
disappearance.
parachutes.
For the core awaits
The
you
storm
ahead.
layers on Neptune overlap
Scientific
in a
data
chaotic
indicate
dance
that it
of winds and
consists of
clouds.
silicates, iron,
Getting
and nickel.
caught means facing
Its
winds
mass
that
is
shred and
approximately
pressures that part in
1.2 times
seconds.
greater than the
Neptune
mass of
storms
Earth.
are among the most
When it
violent
is
in the solar
compressed into
system.
an object where the
A
density of
spacecraft
matter
caught in the
exceeds
storm
13
endures
grams
turbulence
per
that
cubic
strains
centimeter.
its structure.
The pressure at the very
craft
center
fights to
reaches
stabilize.
700
This is
gigapascals.
Neptune's atmosphere, a chaotic
In
realm
these
of storms.
conditions,
A human in a
iron
suit is
ceases
what
to be a
viscid off
metal
its
in our
fury. The
understanding.
figure is tossed helplessly,
passes into the
underscoring
state
our
of degenerate
fragility in the
plasma.
universe's power.
Here, classical chemistry ends, and the quantum mechanics of high densities begins. Your craft no longer exists as a separate object. Under the influence of hydrostatic pressure, its iron atoms mix with the atoms of the planetary core. You have become part of the mass that creates the gravitational well of Neptune. This process is irreversible. Every second of your presence here confirms the law of conservation of mass, but in an absolutely inhuman context. You have been recycled, sorted by weight, and squeezed into the center of an ice giant where eternal night and a temperature of 7,000 degrees prevail. But here is the final scientific paradox. Despite such terrifying energy in the depths, the upper layers of the atmosphere remain icy. This temperature gradient, from -220 to +7,000 degrees, is the reason for that very eternal storm that we saw at the beginning. You have become fuel for this engine. Your fall released energy that will rise upward through convective flows to turn into a gust of wind in the equatorial region millions of years from now. Your existence at the level of the core of Neptune passes into a phase of total molecular diffusion. Here, under a pressure of 7 million atmospheres, the atoms of iron and nickel that once made up your craft no longer belong to you. They have become part of an ultra-dense plasma where electrons are torn from their nuclei and drift freely in a chaotic quantum sea. This is the endpoint of any matter that dared to challenge the gravity of the ice giant. A temperature of 7,000 degrees Celsius is not just heat. It is kinetic energy that tears apart the very concept of a solid body. You are dissolved in the center of a planet that weighs 17 times more than the Earth, and every particle of your former essence now participates in creating a magnetic field that extends for millions of kilometers into outer space. But here is the final scientific paradox that makes Neptune a unique laboratory of horror. Despite the colossal energy at its center, the planet remains the coldest object in our system at the level of the upper cloud boundary. This incredible temperature gradient creates conditions for heat exchange that cannot be reproduced in terrestrial conditions. Heat from the core rises upward through thousands of kilometers of supersonic ice and supercritical fluids via convection. It resembles a giant cauldron where the energy of gravitational compression slowly but inevitably makes its way to the surface. It is this internal heat, and not the weak light of the distant sun, that is the true engine of those supersonic winds that met you at the beginning of the journey. But this is not even the scariest part of your disappearance. As scientific observations using the Hubble telescope and the Voyager 2 mission show that the atmosphere of Neptune is in a state of constant, unpredictable transformation. The Great Dark Spot, which we saw at the end of the 80s of the last century, simply disappeared after a few years, only to reappear later in another place. This indicates that the dynamics of the planet are not stable. You have become part of a system that is constantly rewriting its own geography. Your atoms, raised by convective flows from the depths, may millions of years from now find themselves in the upper layers again, becoming part of a new storm that will tear to pieces the next probe sent by humanity. The physics of Neptune teaches us that the concept of solid ground beneath our feet is only a local feature of our small rocky planet. On the scale of the universe, objects such as Neptune are much more common. We call them ice giants, but this is only a terminological simplification. In reality, these are oceans of exotic matter where pressure turns gas into metal and water into an electrical conductor. Your fall proved that the human body is an incredibly fragile construction built for a very narrow range of pressures and temperatures. Space is not just hostile to life. It functions at energy levels where the very concept of life looks like an accidental chemical error. And this is where everything changes, when we rise from physics to existential awareness. When we look at Neptune through the lenses of telescopes, we see a calm blue dot. But now you know that behind this mask hide diamond rain, oceans of liquid carbon, and supersonic ice that conducts currents of unthinkable power. This is the true face of the universe, majestic, complex, and absolutely indifferent. Neptune does not intend to kill you. It simply exists according to the laws of thermodynamics. Your death in its depths was only a byproduct of pressure equalization and heat transfer. The planet did not even feel your presence, just as the ocean does not feel the fall of a single drop of rain. We often search for meaning or a reflection of our own values in space. But Neptune gives us a different answer. It shows us a world where matter becomes unknowable, where time for an observer in the center of the core flows differently due to gravitational distortion, and where the beauty of the external appearance is only the result of light absorption by methane gas. This is a lesson in humility that we receive at a distance of 4,500,000,000 kilometers from home. We are only accidental spectators at a performance whose script was written long before the appearance of the first stars. The universe was never created for us, and our desire to conquer it is only an illusion caused by our limitations. Every attempt to look inside an ice giant ends the same way: complete destruction and the transformation of the observer into part of the object of observation. You are no longer a human, not a researcher, and not a traveler. You are several billion atoms of carbon, iron, and oxygen circulating in an eternal storm that will never subside. This is your last and highest achievement: to become part of what humanity will never be able to understand to the end. Your journey ended where eternity begins. In the center of Neptune, there is no fear, no pain, and no memory. There is only pressure, temperature, and an infinite cycle of energy transformation. We leave you there, in the heart of the blue monster, as a reminder that the true greatness of the cosmos lies not in its stars, but in its ability to consume everything we consider ourselves, leaving only pure physics. The storm continues. Diamonds continue to fall, and Neptune continues its silent dance on the edge of darkness, requiring neither our approval nor our understanding. This was your last look at a world where the laws of nature work at full strength. You saw what no one is allowed to see, and you paid the highest price for it. But in this price, there is its own truth. We are only a way through which the universe tries to know itself, even if this knowledge costs us everything. Now you are part of Neptune. Now you are part of eternity. And in this boundless silence, under a pressure of 7 million atmospheres, you finally find the answer to the main question. In a universe that has no boundaries, your disappearance is the only way to become truly infinite. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Become part of our crew. In this cold space, we hold together until the last atom dissolves into nothingness.